In the previous video, I created this sort of rough metal, and I want to go on now and do a different type of metal on here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here, and we are going to create a new metal here. All right, so we'll start with this piece here, and I'm just going to get rid of that and create new. I'm going to call this brushed metal silver. And basically all of these are going to have the brushed metal silver. And we'll deal with that piece a little bit later on. Okay, so I'm going to come over to the shading tab. And we can focus just on that for now. All right, so the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to add a noise texture. And I'm going to press Control T for the texture coordinate and mapping node. And I'm going to bring not UV, but object in there. Okay, now to view this, I'm going to click on the noise texture and Shift Control left click so we can see the noise. And I'm going to change some of these values. I'm going to bring the detail up to 60, the max. I'm going to bring the roughness up to 0.6. And I'm going to bring the distortion up to 3. So we start to get this wavy pattern here. And now if I come to the scale and I adjust that, that is going to squish that together. And what I'm going to do is adjust the Z here to get sort of a straight line like that. So I'm going to set those back to 1. I'm going to set this on, try 40. And you can see that I get these wavy lines going around. That's going to create the brush metal part. All right. We're going to add a color ramp in here. Just like this. And squeeze these together a little bit. And then I'll adjust my color to a lighter gray. On these, and let's click back on the principled BSDF, Shift Control click to see it on the object itself, connect the color to the base color, and then to make it metallic, bring the metallic all the way up. And here is the brushed effect that we are getting. Okay, now we'll add some bump to this. I'll use another noise texture, or I can take this one, Shift D, and drag it down. Again, I want the object coordinate, but I won't go through the mapping node where I've squished them. I'll come from here. We'll use another color ramp. This one I'm going to switch positions of these a little bit. We're going to drag this into the roughness. Start getting these areas where the roughness values vary. Okay, that makes it a little bit darker, a little bit lighter. I don't want too much of that. All right, something like this. Okay. So that's going to go into there. So I'm looking at down here. Okay. And now I'm going to add some bump. It's not like that. Let's grab these guys, pull them up. Should pull them over there. Vector bump. We'll come in here into the height, and that we'll put into the normal. You can see that effect. And we'll just make this 0.02. Let's try that. For just a little bit of bump. Let's bring back stuff. So that's the effect that I start to get on here. I like that effect, and I want to use that here where I've got the holes. Okay, so I'm going to take this, let's go back to the shading tab, and I'm going to make a copy of this here. I'm going to call this brush metal silver engraved. And I'm just going to go back to brush metal silver. This is the one that I want, brush metal silver engraved. But before I do that, I'm going to copy this stuff that I created last time with the engraving. Control C. Go back to brush metal silver engraved. Pull that out. Control V. Connect that. Now I've got that on there. And that's the metal that I think I'm going to use for this. I'll come back to the shading. I'm going to make another copy. I'm going to select one, make another copy, and I'm going to call this brush metal gold. This one I'll switch back, and this one, brush metal gold, and I'll come into the color ramp here. Just do something like that. Switch this to brush metal gold. Now come over here. And all of these will switch to brush metal gold. There we go. And finally, I'm going to come down here where I've got a block material. I'm just going to change this to block. And I think I'm going to leave it at that instead of doing anything more with that. So there we have the main metals. May have to change that. Brush metal silver. There we go. Let's bring in a light, a point light, and pull it up. I'm going to increase the radius of that. Change it to sort of a yellowish color. And give it a strength. Maybe that. So that'll help with our glow there. And then I'm also going to add a cylinder. I'm going to use 18 vertices. I'll pull that up. We'll scale it. Let's scale this in the Z as well. and shade smooth. And let's see. Just want to make sure everything's good. Okay. This one, we're going to add a principled volume on there. So let's call this volume. And on the principled BSDF, I'm going to Alt S, principled volume, and I'm going to move that down to volume there. And for the density, I'll try 0.6. And we'll have a look at this. Alt H to create the glow. Now, what I'm going to do, now let's go back to here and hide that. And let's find our, that there. Just change the color a little bit. So now we're starting to get sort of a bit of a glow from that. And yeah, let's switch over to compositing now and click on use nodes. I need to actually render first. So I'm going to render this in Eevee. Just that. Okay, let's go ahead and save and render. All right, with the render done, I can now come into compositing and come to output viewer, connect that up. And we can see our image in the background. I'm going to hold shift and right mouse button and slice through, and that'll put a dot in between that joins them. And I'm going to add a filter glare, drop that on, and you can see the effects that it's done there. But I want fog glow. And the final thing that I think I'm going to add is another filter, switch this to sharpen, and 0.0, just to show you, I'll put 0.05 and I'll drop it on and just watch the image. All right, that's sharpened up the image. Let's try 0.1 just to see it. Okay, so I'm going to leave that on 0.05 though. I'll come back and we'll try just another render and see how that affects things. And that is what I get for my lantern. So I think what I'll do is come out of camera view, and I'm going to take the cylinder and the point light, and I'm going to drop them into the lantern collection. And I'm going to add another lantern in here as a collection instance, so I can just manipulate it like this, just for the fun of having another one in there. So we can see this thing. See if we put it back there. And just a different orientation. Let's try that. Let's see what that looks like. All right, yeah. And we'll see. Let's render that. And that is my lantern with my new brush material with a principled volume in there to help it glow. I could move that up a little bit. You can get some glow coming out of there. New materials, and that's it. All right, so I think that's going to end the lantern modeling and texturing series. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next series.